All right, everyone, gather round. Let's talk about something that, unfortunately, still stains the fabric of our society: prejudice. Have you ever felt the sting of injustice simply because of the color of your skin? Have you ever witnessed someone being treated unfairly, their potential stifled, their dreams crushed under the weight of bigotry? What would you do? What could you do? Tonight, we delve into a story that will leave you breathless, a story of resilience, of unexpected justice, and of the potent consequences that follow when arrogance meets righteous indignation. This is If You're Black, Get Out. 5 minutes later, the arrogant manager was forced to pack up and leave the company. Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that challenge the status quo and spark important conversations, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Your support means the world to me. And now, a special shout out to one of our amazing listeners. Thank you so much, Emily Carter, 28, from Chicago, Illinois ***, for your unwavering support. Your comments and engagement truly inspire me. This story is dedicated to you and to everyone who believes in a world free from prejudice. Now let's get into it. The air in the office hung thick with unspoken tension, a miasma of fear and resentment that clung to the cubicles like a persistent cough. Michael, a young, ambitious black man with a degree from Stanford and a work ethic that put his colleagues to shame, felt it most acutely. He'd poured his heart and soul into this job at Innovate Solutions, a tech firm that ironically preached inclusivity but practiced something far more sinister. His manager, a portly, red-faced man named Mr. Harrison, had made Michael's life a living hell since day one. The microaggressions were constant. Subtle jabs about his urban vocabulary, suspiciously overlooked promotions, and a steady stream of projects that were beneath his skill level. Michael had tried to ignore it, to rise above it, to prove his worth through sheer competence. But the weight of it was crushing him. Today, however, was different. Today, the venom was no longer subtle. It happened during a team meeting. The atmosphere was already strained. A crucial project was behind schedule, and Mr. Harrison was in a particularly foul mood. He paced back and forth, his face contorted in a perpetual scowl, barking orders and criticisms with equal fervor. Then his eyes landed on Michael. "Michael," he sneered, his voice dripping with condescension, "why don't you enlighten us with your unique perspective on this problem?" Michael swallowed hard, trying to maintain his composure. He knew this was a trap. Anything he said would be twisted, ridiculed, used against him. But he couldn't back down. He had to stand his ground. He explained his proposed solution, carefully articulating his reasoning, presenting data to support his claims. He spoke calmly, professionally, ignoring the glares and the barely concealed smirks around the table. When he finished, Mr. Harrison let out a harsh, mocking laugh. "Is that it? That's the best you've got? Honestly, Michael, I expected more. Maybe this kind of creative thinking works in your neighborhood, but it doesn't fly here." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what he was implying. The air crackled with the electricity of unspoken prejudice. Michael felt a surge of anger, hot and visceral, rising within him. He wanted to scream, to lash out, to tear down the walls of this suffocating, oppressive environment. But he knew that would only play into Mr. Harrison's hands. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to remain calm. "Mr. Harrison," he said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands, "I believe my solution is valid and I stand by it. If you have specific criticisms, I'm happy to address them. But I will not tolerate personal attacks or prejudiced remarks." Mr. Harrison's face turned an even deeper shade of red. "Prejudiced? What are you talking about? I'm just being honest. This isn't some kind of diversity workshop, Michael. This is a business, and in this business you need to perform. And frankly, you're not cutting it." He paused, his eyes narrowing. Then he delivered the blow. "Look, Michael," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "Let's be honest here. This company isn't really the right fit for you. Maybe you'd be happier somewhere else. somewhere with people like you. The silence in the room was deafening. Michael's heart hammered against his ribs. He knew what was coming. Mr. Harrison leaned forward, a cruel smile spreading across his face. In fact, he said, his voice loud and clear for everyone to hear, if you're black, get out. The words hung in the air, heavy and toxic. Michael felt a wave of nausea wash over him. He looked around the room, searching for a flicker of support, a sign of solidarity. But all he saw were averted eyes and tight lips. For a moment, he was paralyzed, trapped in a nightmare of injustice and humiliation. He wanted to disappear, to crawl into a hole and never come out. But then, something shifted within him. A spark of defiance ignited in his soul. He straightened his back, lifted his chin, and looked Mr. Harrison directly in the eye. He wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing him break. He wouldn't let him win. He slowly gathered his belongings, his hands trembling slightly. He packed his laptop, his notebooks, his framed photo of his family. He moved with deliberate calm, refusing to show any sign of weakness. As he reached the door, he paused, turning back to face Mr. Harrison. You may think you've won today, he said, his voice low but firm. But you haven't. You've only revealed the ugliness that festers within you. And trust me, Mr. Harrison, that ugliness will eventually consume you. Then, he walked out, leaving behind the stifling atmosphere of Innovate Solutions. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for sure. He would never again tolerate being treated with such blatant disrespect. He would find a place where his talent was valued, where his voice was heard, where his skin color was not a barrier to success. He walked out into the sunshine, the weight of the office lifting from his shoulders. He took a deep breath, the fresh air filling his lungs. He was free. But as he walked away, a series of events were already unfolding within the walls of Innovate Solutions. Events that would lead to Mr. Harrison's spectacular downfall. Just 5 minutes later, the wheels of justice, though often slow, were beginning to turn. The aftermath of Michael's departure hung heavy in the air, thick with a mixture of shock, guilt, and morbid curiosity. Mr. Harrison, emboldened by his blatant display of power, puffed out his chest, surveying the room like a conquering general. He expected a sense of victory, a reaffirmation of his authority. Instead, he was met with uncomfortable silence. Sarah, a young, sharp marketing analyst, was the first to break the tension. She'd always admired Michael's work ethic and his unwavering optimism. Even in the face of Mr. Harrison's constant negativity, she couldn't let this stand. Mr. Harrison, she said, her voice trembling slightly but laced with steel. What you just said was completely unacceptable. It was racist, unprofessional, and frankly, disgusting. A gasp rippled through the room. No one had ever dared to speak to Mr. Harrison like that before. He turned to Sarah, his face contorted in disbelief. Excuse me? He sputtered. Are you questioning my judgment, Sarah? Are you defending him after his subpar performance? I'm not questioning your judgment, Sarah retorted, her voice growing stronger. I'm calling out your blatant racism. Michael is one of the most talented people on this team, and you've been systematically undermining him since he started. And now, you've just publicly humiliated him based on the color of his skin. Other voices began to join in, hesitant at first, but gaining momentum as they realized they weren't alone. David, a senior software engineer, spoke next. Sarah's right, Mr. Harrison. We've all seen it. The way you treat Michael is different. It's unfair. Then came Maria, a project manager known for her calm demeanor. I've documented several instances of Mr. Harrison making inappropriate comments and assigning Michael tasks that are far below his skill level. I was hesitant to come forward, but after what just happened, I can't stay silent. The dam had broken. Years of pent-up frustration and resentment poured out, exposing the toxic culture that Mr. Harrison had cultivated. He tried to interrupt, to defend himself, but his voice was drowned out by the chorus of accusations. Panic began to set in. He realized he had underestimated the situation. He had assumed that his position of power would protect him, that his words would be unquestioned. But he was wrong. While the mutiny brewed within the meeting room, another crucial element was falling into place. Emily Carter, the young woman from Chicago who had been thanked in the introduction, was a former intern at Innovate Solutions. She had witnessed firsthand Mr. Harrison's discriminatory behavior towards Michael. Emily, now working for a prominent social justice organization, had been following Michael's career with interest, hoping he would thrive despite the challenges he faced. When she heard about the incident in the meeting room from a contact still working at Innovate Solutions, she knew she had to act. Within minutes, she had drafted a powerful statement condemning Mr. Harrison's actions and calling for his immediate dismissal. She shared it on social media, tagging Innovate Solutions and urging others to amplify the message. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The hashtag Justice for Michael began trending. News outlets picked up the story. Innovate Solutions was facing a public relations nightmare. Back in the meeting room, the accusations continued to mount. Mr. Harrison, pale and sweating, tried to regain control. "This is ridiculous," he shouted. "You're all overreacting. I didn't mean anything by it. It was just a joke." But no one was buying it. They had seen his true colors, and they were disgusted. Just then, Mr. Harrison's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and hesitated. It was Mr. Thompson, the CEO of Innovate Solutions. He knew this couldn't be good. He reluctantly answered the call, holding the phone to his ear. His eyes widened as he listened to Mr. Thompson's words. His face drained of color. "Yes, sir," he stammered. "Of course, sir. I understand, sir." He hung up the phone, his hand trembling. He looked around the room, his eyes pleading. "That was Mr. Thompson," he said, his voice barely a whisper. He wants to see me in his office. Immediately, he stood up, his legs unsteady. He walked out of the meeting room, leaving behind a room full of people who finally felt a glimmer of hope. As he walked towards Mr. Thompson's office, he knew his career was over. He had crossed a line, and there was no going back. The arrogance that had fueled his discriminatory behavior had finally caught up with him. The 5 minutes were ticking away, each second bringing him closer to his inevitable downfall. The world was changing, and Mr. Harrison was about to learn that prejudice and hate would no longer be tolerated. The consequences were coming, swift and unforgiving. The walk to Mr. Thompson's office felt like an eternity for Mr. Harrison. Each step echoed the pounding of his heart, a frantic drumbeat against the silence of his impending doom. He passed by familiar faces, colleagues he had once considered allies, now averted their gazes, their expressions a mixture of pity and disdain. The whispers followed him like shadows, amplifying his shame and regret. He replayed the events of the meeting in his mind, each detail magnified, each word laced with venom. He had been so arrogant, so convinced of his own superiority, that he had failed to see the consequences of his actions. He had thought he was untouchable, shielded by his position and the unspoken biases that permeated the company culture. He was wrong, terribly, irrevocably wrong. He reached Mr. Thompson's office, the mahogany door looming before him like the gates of hell. He hesitated for a moment, taking a deep breath to compose himself. But it was no use. His hands were clammy, his face pale, his stomach churning with anxiety. He knocked softly, his knuckles barely audible. "Come in." Mr. Thompson's voice boomed from within, devoid of its usual warmth and cordiality. "Mr. Harrison pushed open the door and stepped inside. The office was opulent, a testament to Mr. Thompson's success. But the luxurious surroundings did nothing to ease Mr. Harrison's discomfort. Mr. Thompson sat behind his massive desk, his face grim, his eyes cold. He gestured to a chair without a word. Mr. Harrison sat down, his legs trembling. "Mr. Harrison," Mr. Thompson began, his voice measured and severe. "I've just received a rather disturbing account of what transpired in your team meeting this afternoon." Mr. Harrison opened his mouth to speak, to offer some feeble excuse, but Mr. Thompson cut him off. I've also seen the social media posts, the news articles, the outrage. Innovate Solutions is trending for all the wrong reasons. And it's all thanks to you. He paused, his gaze unwavering. Do you deny these allegations, Mr. Harrison? Mr. Harrison swallowed hard. He knew there was no point in lying. The evidence was overwhelming. No, sir, he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. I said some things I shouldn't have. I let my emotions get the better of me. Emotions? Mr. Thompson scoffed. This isn't about emotions, Mr. Harrison. This is about blatant racism, discrimination, and a complete disregard for the values that this company stands for. He leaned forward, his voice hardening. Innovate Solutions prides itself on its commitment to diversity and inclusion. We strive to create a workplace where everyone feels valued and respected. Your actions have not only undermined those values, but have also caused irreparable damage to our reputation. Mr. Harrison hung his head in shame. He knew what was coming. Mr. Harrison, Mr. Thompson continued, his voice cold and unforgiving. Your behavior is unacceptable. Effective immediately, you are terminated from your position at Innovate Solutions. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Mr. Harrison felt a wave of nausea wash over him. His career, his reputation, his livelihood all gone in an instant. But sir, he stammered, desperate to salvage something, anything. I've been with this company for 15 years. I've dedicated my life to Innovate Solutions. Surely there's something we can do. There's nothing to discuss, Mr. Harrison. Mr. Thompson said, his voice firm. Your actions have consequences, and you must face them. He stood up, signaling the end of the meeting. Security will escort you to your office to collect your belongings. You have 1 hour. After that, you are to leave the premises and never return. Mr. Harrison stood up, his legs weak. He felt like he was walking through a nightmare. He had lost everything. As he left Mr. Thompson's office, he passed by the receptionist, who avoided his gaze. He walked down the hallway, the whispers growing louder, the stares more intense. He felt like a pariah, an outcast, a symbol of everything that was wrong with the company. He reached his office, his hands trembling as he unlocked the door. He stepped inside, the familiar surroundings now feeling alien and hostile. He looked around at the photos on his desk, the awards on his shelf, the mementos of his career. They all seemed meaningless now, tainted by his own actions. He began to pack his belongings, his movements mechanical and devoid of emotion. He felt numb, disconnected from reality. He couldn't believe this was happening to him. As he packed, he thought about Michael. He thought about the pain and humiliation he had inflicted upon him. He thought about the opportunities he had denied him, the dreams he had crushed. He finally understood the true cost of his prejudice. It had not only destroyed Michael's career, but had also destroyed his own. He finished packing, his heart heavy with regret. He picked up his box and walked out of his office, escorted by a silent security guard. As he walked through the lobby, he saw Sarah, David, and Maria standing together, their faces grim but determined. They watched him as he passed, their eyes filled with a mixture of pity and judgment. He averted his gaze, unable to meet their eyes. He knew he deserved their contempt. He walked out of the building, into the harsh glare of the afternoon sun. He was alone, unemployed, and disgraced. His world had crumbled around him. Just 5 minutes after he had told Michael to get out, Mr. Harrison was forced to pack up and leave the company. The swiftness of his downfall was a stark reminder that prejudice has no place in the modern world, and that sometimes justice, however delayed, will eventually prevail. The company announced his termination publicly, alongside a commitment to further diversity and inclusion training. The internet rejoiced, but for Michael, the battle was far from over. News of Mr. Harrison's firing spread like wildfire, igniting a sense of vindication and hope among those who had witnessed or experienced similar injustices. Social media buzzed with celebratory posts, hailing the victory against prejudice and applauding Innovate Solutions' swift action. Yet, beneath the surface of this seemingly triumphant narrative, a complex web of emotions and uncertainties lingered. Michael, now at home, scrolling through the endless stream of news articles and social media updates, felt a strange mix of relief and unease. He was glad that Mr. Harrison had faced consequences for his actions, but the experience had left a deep scar. The humiliation, the constant stress, the feeling of being perpetually judged, these were wounds that wouldn't heal overnight. He received a flurry of calls and messages from friends, family, and former colleagues, all expressing their support and admiration. Sarah, David, and Maria had even started a GoFundMe campaign to help him financially while he searched for a new job. He was touched by their generosity, but a part of him couldn't shake off the feeling that this was all too little, too late. He had lost valuable time, career momentum, and a sense of belonging. The experience had also forced him to confront the harsh realities of systemic racism, the subtle and not-so-subtle ways in which prejudice could manifest itself in the workplace. Later that evening, he received a call from Mr. Thompson, the CEO of Innovate Solutions. Michael hesitated before answering, unsure of what to expect. "Michael," Mr. Thompson said, his voice sincere and apologetic, "I want to personally apologize for what happened. Mr. Harrison's behavior was reprehensible, and it does not reflect the values of our company." Michael remained silent, waiting for him to continue. "I understand that no apology can undo the pain and humiliation you experienced," Mr. Thompson said, "but I want to assure you that we are committed to creating a more inclusive and equitable workplace. We are implementing mandatory diversity training for all employees, and we are reviewing our hiring and promotion practices to ensure fairness and transparency." He paused. "Michael, I know this is a lot to ask, but I would like to offer you your job back, with a promotion and a significant raise." Michael was stunned. He hadn't expected this. I don't know what to say, Mr. Thompson," he stammered. "Think about it, Michael," Mr. Thompson said. "We value your talent and your contributions to this company. We want you to be a part of our future." He gave Michael his personal cell phone number. "Call me whenever you're ready to talk." Michael hung up the phone, his mind racing. The offer was tempting, but he had reservations. Could he really go back to Innovate Solutions after what had happened? Could he trust that the company had truly changed? He spent the next few days weighing his options. He spoke with his family, his friends, and his mentors, seeking their advice and guidance. His mother, a strong and resilient woman who had faced her own share of discrimination, urged him to consider the offer. "This could be an opportunity to make a real difference, Michael," she said. "You could be a role model for other young Black professionals. You could help change the company from the inside out." His best friend, David, was more cautious. "Are you sure you want to go back there, man?" he asked. "It's going to be tough. You'll always be seen as the guy who got Harrison fired. And who knows if the changes they're making are genuine." Ultimately, the decision was Michael's. He knew that returning to Innovate Solutions would be a challenge, but he also saw it as an opportunity. An opportunity to prove that he wouldn't be silenced, that he wouldn't be driven out by prejudice. An opportunity to make a lasting impact on the company culture. He called Mr. Thompson and accepted the offer. He laid out his conditions. A guarantee that he would be treated with respect and fairness, a commitment to implementing meaningful diversity initiatives, and a seat on the company's Diversity and Inclusion Council. Mr. Thompson agreed to all of his terms. As Michael prepared to return to Innovate Solutions, he knew that he was embarking on a new chapter in his life. A chapter filled with challenges and uncertainties, but also with hope and the determination to create a better future for himself and for others. He understood that the fight against racism was a marathon, not a sprint, and he was ready to run. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, a burning desire to dismantle the systems of oppression that had held him back for so long. This wasn't just about his career anymore. It was about something much bigger. It was about justice, equality, and the unwavering belief that everyone deserves a fair chance, regardless of the color of their skin. Michael's return to Innovate Solutions was met with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. He walked through the familiar lobby, the weight of the past few weeks pressing down on him. He noticed the subtle changes, a new poster promoting diversity, a more diverse group of employees chatting near the water cooler. But he knew that real change went deeper than surface appearances. He was greeted warmly by Sarah, David, and Maria, who embraced him with genuine affection. They were relieved to see him back and eager to support him in his new role. Their presence was a source of comfort and strength. His promotion to senior project manager came with a larger office and a more prominent role in decision-making. He was now responsible for overseeing several key projects and mentoring junior employees. He took his new responsibilities seriously, determined to prove that he deserved the opportunity. Mr. Thompson made a point of publicly acknowledging Michael's return and reaffirming the company's commitment to diversity and inclusion. He introduced Michael as a valuable asset to the company and expressed his regret for the injustice he had suffered. The gesture was well received, but Michael knew that actions spoke louder than words. He quickly immersed himself in his work, focusing on delivering results and building positive relationships with his colleagues. He made a conscious effort to be approachable and supportive, creating a safe space for open communication and collaboration. He also joined the newly formed Diversity and Inclusion Council, where he advocated for policies and initiatives that would promote equity and address systemic biases within the company. He pushed for blind resume reviews, mentorship programs for underrepresented groups, and more inclusive hiring practices. His efforts were met with resistance from some quarters. Some employees were skeptical of the company's commitment to diversity, viewing it as a mere PR stunt. Others were uncomfortable with the changes, clinging to the old ways and resisting any attempts to challenge the status quo. Michael faced microaggressions and subtle forms of discrimination, even in his new role. Some colleagues questioned his decisions, undermined his authority, or made assumptions about his abilities based on his race. He refused to be discouraged. He knew that changing deeply ingrained attitudes and behaviors would take time and effort. He remained persistent, patient, and unwavering in his commitment to creating a more inclusive workplace. He found allies in unexpected places. Some of his former detractors, witnessing his genuine dedication and the positive impact he was having on the company, began to change their perspectives. They started to listen to his ideas, value his contributions, and support his efforts to promote diversity and inclusion. One of his biggest challenges was addressing the lingering resentment and distrust that existed among some of the Black employees at Innovate Solutions. Many of them had experienced similar forms of discrimination and felt disillusioned by the company's promises of change. Michael reached out to these employees, listening to their concerns and validating their experiences. He shared his own story, acknowledging the pain and frustration they felt. He assured them that he was committed to fighting for their rights and creating a workplace where they could thrive. He also encouraged them to speak up, to share their stories, and to hold the company accountable for its promises. He created a platform for their voices to be heard, amplifying their concerns and advocating for their needs. Slowly but surely, trust began to build. The Black employees at Innovate Solutions started to see Michael as a genuine ally, someone who understood their struggles and was willing to fight for them. They began to feel more empowered, more valued, and more hopeful about the future. Michael's efforts to promote diversity and inclusion at Innovate Solutions were not without their setbacks and challenges. But he remained steadfast in his commitment, knowing that the fight for justice and equality was a long and arduous journey. He understood that true change required more than just policies and procedures. It required a fundamental shift in attitudes, behaviors, and beliefs, and he was determined to be a catalyst for that change. He knew that his actions could inspire others to speak out, to challenge injustice, and to create a more equitable world. And that was a legacy worth fighting for. He started seeing small victories, more diverse candidates being hired, more inclusive language being used in company communications, and a greater awareness of unconscious biases among employees. These small wins fueled his determination and reminded him that even in the face of adversity, progress was possible. Months passed, and the initial fervor surrounding Mr. Harrison's firing began to fade. The news cycle moved on, and Innovate Solutions was no longer under the intense scrutiny it had once faced. But for Michael, the work was far from over. He knew that maintaining momentum and ensuring lasting change required constant vigilance and unwavering dedication. He continued to champion diversity and inclusion initiatives, pushing for more comprehensive training programs, more equitable hiring practices, and more opportunities for underrepresented groups. He also made a point of mentoring young Black professionals, providing them with guidance, support, and encouragement. One of his ments, a bright and ambitious young woman named Aisha, reminded him of himself when he first started at Innovate Solutions. She was talented, driven, and eager to succeed, but she also faced the same subtle forms of discrimination and microaggressions that he had experienced. Michael took Aisha under his wing, providing her with advice on how to navigate the corporate landscape, how to advocate for herself, and how to overcome the challenges she faced. He also connected her with other mentors and role models, creating a network of support that would help her thrive. Aisha's success became a source of immense pride for Michael. He watched as she blossomed, gaining confidence, earning promotions, and making significant contributions to the company. Her story was a testament to the power of mentorship and the importance of creating opportunities for underrepresented groups. However, Michael also faced new challenges. As he became more vocal about diversity and inclusion, he began to attract the attention of conservative media outlets and online trolls. He was subjected to racist attacks, online harassment, and even death threats. He refused to be intimidated. He knew that these attacks were a sign that he was making a difference, that he was challenging the status quo and threatening those who benefited from inequality. He reported the threats to the authorities and increased his personal security. He also received support from Innovate Solutions, which issued a statement condemning the attacks and reaffirming its commitment to diversity and inclusion. The experience was unsettling, but it only strengthened his resolve. He realized that the fight for justice and equality was not just a professional endeavor. It was a personal one. He was fighting for his own safety, his own dignity, and his own right to exist in a world free from prejudice. Meanwhile, Mr. Harrison's life had taken a sharp turn for the worse. He struggled to find a new job, his reputation tarnished by the scandal at Innovate Solutions. He was ostracized by his former colleagues and friends, and he faced financial difficulties. He tried to blame Michael for his downfall, accusing him of being a troublemaker and a liar. But no one believed him. The truth had come out, and his own actions had sealed his fate. He eventually moved to a small town, hoping to escape the shame and embarrassment of his past. He took a low-paying job at a local grocery store, his once promising career in ruins. One day he saw Michael on television, being interviewed about his work promoting diversity and inclusion. He watched with a mixture of anger and envy. He couldn't believe that Michael had not only survived but had thrived after what he had done. He realized that he had made a terrible mistake. He had allowed his prejudice and his arrogance to cloud his judgment, and he had paid a heavy price. He tried to reach out to Michael, hoping to apologize and ask for forgiveness. But Michael refused to speak to him. He had moved on with his life, and he had no interest in forgiving the man who had caused him so much pain. Mr. Harrison was left to live with the consequences of his actions, a reminder that prejudice and hate ultimately lead to self-destruction. His story served as a cautionary tale, a warning to others who might be tempted to follow the same path. He became a ghost of his former self, haunted by the memories of his past and the knowledge that he had thrown away his career and his reputation because of his own bigotry. Years passed. Michael's influence at Innovate Solutions continued to grow. The company became a model for diversity and inclusion, attracting top talent from all backgrounds. He was recognized nationally for his work, receiving awards and accolades for his commitment to social justice. He used his platform to speak out against systemic racism and advocate for policy changes that would create a more equitable society. He became a mentor to countless young people, inspiring them to pursue their dreams and overcome the challenges they faced. Aisha, his former mentee, became a rising star at Innovate Solutions, eventually being promoted to Vice President of Marketing. She continued to champion diversity and inclusion, carrying on Michael's legacy and ensuring that the company remained committed to its values. One day, Michael received a letter from Mr. Thompson, the former CEO of Innovate Solutions. Mr. Thompson had retired a few years earlier and had moved to a small town in Montana. In the letter, Mr. Thompson expressed his gratitude to Michael for helping to transform Innovate Solutions into a more inclusive and equitable workplace. He admitted that he had been slow to recognize the extent of the problem and that he had relied too heavily on Mr. Harrison's judgment. He also revealed that he had been diagnosed with a terminal illness and that he wanted to make amends for his past mistakes before he died. He asked Michael for his forgiveness. Michael was moved by Mr. Thompson's letter. He realized that even those who had been complicit in injustice could change and grow. He decided to visit Mr. Thompson in Montana. When he arrived, he found Mr. Thompson frail and weak, but his eyes were clear and his spirit was strong. They spent hours talking, reminiscing about the past and discussing the future. Mr. Thompson apologized to Michael for the pain he had caused him. He admitted that he had been blinded by his own privilege and that he had failed to see the humanity in others. Michael accepted Mr. Thompson's apology. He realized that holding on to anger and resentment would only hold him back. He chose to forgive, not because Mr. Thompson deserved it, but because he deserved to be free from the burden of hatred. Before Michael left, Mr. Thompson gave him a gift, a small, wooden carving of a soaring eagle. He said that the eagle symbolized freedom, resilience, and the ability to rise above adversity. Michael cherished the gift, keeping it on his desk as a reminder of the importance of forgiveness and the power of hope. As Michael continued his work promoting diversity and inclusion, he realized that the fight was far from over. Systemic racism and prejudice were still deeply ingrained in society, and there was much work to be done. But he remained optimistic. He believed that change was possible, that people could overcome their biases and prejudices, and that a more equitable world was within reach. He knew that the journey would be long and arduous, but he was committed to staying the course. He had seen firsthand the power of one person to make a difference, and he was determined to use his influence to create a better future for all. He organized workshops, gave speeches, and mentored young leaders, spreading his message of hope and inspiring others to join the fight for justice. He understood that lasting change required a collective effort, a united front against the forces of hatred and division. He focused on building bridges between different communities, fostering understanding and empathy, and challenging the narratives that perpetuated stereotypes and prejudice. His work extended beyond the corporate world, reaching into schools, community centers, and even political arenas. He became a voice for the voiceless, a champion for the marginalized, and a beacon of hope for those who had lost faith in the possibility of change. Years turned into decades. Michael became a legend, a symbol of hope and resilience for generations. Innovate Solutions thrived, its diverse workforce and inclusive culture driving innovation and success. Aisha eventually succeeded Michael as the company's chief diversity officer, continuing his legacy and ensuring that the company remained committed to its values. One day, Michael received an unexpected invitation. The city of his birth was planning to erect a statue in his honor, recognizing his contributions to social justice and his impact on the community. He was humbled by the honor, but he also felt a sense of unease. He knew that statues were often controversial, symbols of power and privilege that could be easily misinterpreted. He wanted to ensure that the statue accurately reflected his values and his message. He worked closely with the artists and community leaders to design a statue that would inspire hope and promote dialogue. The statue depicted a young black man reaching out his hand to a young white woman, symbolizing unity and reconciliation. The unveiling ceremony was a momentous occasion. Thousands of people gathered to celebrate Michael's life and his work. Speakers from all walks of life paid tribute to his courage, his compassion, and his unwavering commitment to justice. Michael himself gave a moving speech, reflecting on his journey and the challenges he had faced. He spoke about the importance of forgiveness, the power of hope, and the need to continue the fight for equality. He also acknowledged the contributions of those who had supported him along the way, including Sarah, David, Maria, Mr. Thompson, and Aisha. He emphasized that his success was not his alone, but a collective achievement. As the statue was unveiled, a hush fell over the crowd. People gazed in awe at the powerful image, many with tears in their eyes. The statue became an instant landmark, a symbol of hope and inspiration for the city. But even as Michael celebrated this momentous occasion, he knew that the fight for justice was far from over. He understood that the statue was not an end in itself, but a reminder of the work that still needed to be done. He continued to speak out against injustice, to advocate for policy changes, and to mentor young people. He remained committed to creating a more equitable world, even as he entered his twilight years. One evening, as he sat in his study, reflecting on his life, he received a phone call from a young woman named Maya. Maya was a college student who had been inspired by Michael's story and had decided to dedicate her life to social justice. Maya told Michael that she was facing challenges in her work, that she was feeling discouraged and overwhelmed. She asked him for advice. Michael listened patiently to Maya's concerns. He shared his own experiences, his own struggles, and his own moments of doubt. He assured her that she was not alone and that her work was making a difference. He reminded her of the importance of forgiveness, the power of hope, and the need to persevere, even in the face of adversity. He encouraged her to find strength in her community, to connect with others who shared her values, and to never give up on her dreams. As he hung up the phone, Michael felt a sense of peace and contentment. He knew that his legacy would live on through Maya and the countless other young people he had inspired. He had planted seeds of hope, and he knew that they would continue to grow and flourish for generations to come. He smiled, knowing that the fight for justice would continue, even after he was gone. The world was still far from perfect, but he had played his part in making it a little bit better. And that was all that mattered. He closed his eyes, a sense of gratitude washing over him. He had faced adversity, overcome prejudice, and achieved his dreams. He had lived a life of purpose, a life of meaning, and a life of love. And for that, he was eternally grateful. In his final years, Michael dedicated himself to writing his memoirs, wanting to leave behind a comprehensive account of his life, his struggles, and his triumphs. He wanted to ensure that future generations understood the importance of fighting for justice and equality. He poured his heart and soul into the project, revisiting painful memories, celebrating hard-won victories, and reflecting on the lessons he had learned. As he neared the end of the writing process, he decided to include a chapter about Mr. Harrison, wanting to provide a complete and honest portrayal of the events that had shaped his life. He struggled with how to approach the subject, unsure whether to focus on the anger and resentment he had once felt or to offer a more nuanced perspective. One day, while researching old newspaper articles for his book, he stumbled upon a shocking discovery. He found an article detailing a series of financial improprieties at Innovate Solutions that had occurred during Mr. Harrison's tenure. The article suggested that Mr. Harrison had been involved in embezzlement and fraud, siphoning off company funds for his own personal gain. Michael was stunned. He had always believed that Mr. Harrison's actions were motivated solely by racism and prejudice. He had never considered the possibility that there might have been other factors at play. He delved deeper into the research, uncovering a web of deceit and corruption that extended far beyond Mr. Harrison's discriminatory behavior. He discovered that Mr. Harrison had been under immense pressure from the company's board of directors to increase profits, and that he had resorted to illegal and unethical tactics to achieve those goals. He also learned that Mr. Harrison had been struggling with personal financial problems, including gambling debts and a failing marriage. He had been desperate to maintain his lavish lifestyle and had been willing to do anything to avoid losing everything. Michael realized that Mr. Harrison's racism, while reprehensible, might have been a smokescreen, a way to deflect attention from his own criminal activities. By focusing on Michael and making him a scapegoat, Mr. Harrison had been able to divert scrutiny from his own misdeeds. This revelation completely changed Michael's perspective. He realized that the situation was far more complex than he had initially thought. He had been so focused on the racial injustice he had experienced that he had failed to see the bigger picture. He decided to rewrite the chapter about Mr. Harrison, incorporating his new findings. He still condemned Mr. Harrison's racism, but he also acknowledged the other factors that had contributed to his downfall. He contacted Mr. Harrison, who was now living in a nursing home, suffering from dementia and in failing health. He told Mr. Harrison about his research and asked him for his side of the story. Mr. Harrison, in a moment of lucidity, confessed to his crimes. He admitted that he had been motivated by greed and fear, and that he had used racism as a tool to protect himself. He apologized to Michael for the pain he had caused him. Michael listened patiently, offering no judgment. He realized that Mr. Harrison was a broken man, haunted by his past and facing the consequences of his actions. He forgave Mr. Harrison, not because he deserved it, but because he understood that everyone is capable of making mistakes, and that everyone deserves a chance at redemption. He included Mr. Harrison's confession in his memoirs, along with a message of forgiveness and reconciliation. He wanted to show the world that even the most hateful individuals can change, and that it is possible to find common ground, even in the midst of conflict. Michael's memoirs became a bestseller, inspiring millions of people around the world. His story became a symbol of hope and resilience, a testament to the power of forgiveness and the importance of fighting for justice. The book's revelation about Mr. Harrison's financial crimes also led to a re-examination of Innovate Solutions' past practices, resulting in reforms and a renewed commitment to ethical business conduct. This unexpected twist added another layer of complexity to Michael's journey, demonstrating that even in the face of blatant prejudice, there can be hidden motives and deeper truths waiting to be uncovered. In the twilight of his life, surrounded by loved ones and basking in the warmth of a life well lived, Michael reflected on the incredible journey he had undertaken. He had faced adversity, overcome prejudice, and achieved his dreams. He had become a symbol of hope and resilience for generations. But more importantly, he had used his influence to make the world a better place. He had learned that the fight for justice was a never-ending process, that there would always be challenges and setbacks along the way. But he had also learned that change was possible, that people could overcome their biases and prejudices, and that a more equitable world was within reach. He had seen firsthand the power of one person to make a difference, and he had dedicated his life to inspiring others to do the same. He had mentored countless young people, advocated for policy changes, and spoken out against injustice. He had also learned the importance of forgiveness, understanding that holding on to anger and resentment would only hold him back. He had chosen to forgive those who had wronged him, not because they deserved it, but because he deserved to be free from the burden of hatred. He had come to understand that even in the darkest of times, there was always hope. Hope for a better future, hope for a more just society, hope for a world where everyone was treated with dignity and respect. As he closed his eyes for the final time, he felt a sense of peace and contentment. He knew that his legacy would live on through the countless lives he had touched and the positive changes he had made in the world. His story became a timeless tale, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, it is possible to overcome prejudice, achieve your dreams, and make a lasting impact on society. The statue in his honor continued to inspire generations, a symbol of hope and unity for all. Innovate Solutions remained a model for diversity and inclusion, its success a testament to the power of creating a workplace where everyone felt valued and respected. Aisha continued to lead the company's diversity efforts, ensuring that Michael's legacy lived on. And even Mr. Harrison, in his final moments, found a measure of peace, knowing that he had been forgiven and that his story had served as a cautionary tale. The story of, "If you're black, get out," became a powerful reminder that prejudice has no place in the modern world. It demonstrated the importance of speaking out against injustice the power of forgiveness, and the enduring hope for a more equitable future. It was a story of triumph over adversity, a story of resilience and determination, a story of hope and love. It was a story that would continue to inspire generations to come, reminding them that even in the face of darkness, the light of justice can always prevail. The 5 minutes that changed everything reverberated through time, creating ripples of positive change that touched countless lives and left an indelible mark on the world. Michael's legacy became a beacon, guiding others towards a future where everyone, regardless of their race or background, could have the opportunity to thrive and reach their full potential. And so, the story ends, not with a period, but with an ellipsis, a symbol of the ongoing journey towards a more just and equitable world, a journey that each of us must continue to undertake.